Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM22 Youth Factory. We're on episode 29, and it's a new season. We're going to open up with our intake, and it's another good one. The good news also is as we've started to see that development, as Osby has raised that bar on where the team is overall in terms of quality, we shouldn't be seeing a ton of quality in our intakes. Potential should still be there, obviously, but the current ability really shouldn't be on the same level. And seeing a midfielder like Arsend at 3.5-star current ability is really good. Numerous guys at 2-star current ability, when we've raised that bar overall as a team, is a definite excellent sign. Also, fairly pleased to see that we have strikers, midfielders, center backs, primarily filling out the intake is probably a better distribution than we've seen in a while. Our continued difficulties in terms of being able to get the right kind of staff in, especially recently, the last couple of seasons, we have not been able to hire any new staff members. We have the same guys coming back. Now, the good news is we haven't lost a lot of them because we can't actually re-sign them. For the most part, their salary demands are now higher than what we can afford. So to get a player we can't afford means to get staff member means to get a lower level staff member who's willing to take less money. The guys we have, we're not able to sign new contracts with them for the most part, and their contracts are running out. But fortunately, they're switching to month-to-month contracts on the same salary they were on previously, which was definitely much more affordable when we were a couple of divisions down, or a few divisions down from where we are now. And thus, those staff members, ripe for the picking from other teams, haven't been picked off thus far. Partially because they're still not great. They're still not good. They're very much mediocre / okay. Our training now, with that training facility at level 3 and with some staff that's okay-ish, we're looking at 2 to 3 stars in every training category, which is why we're starting to see that little bit more of a widespread progression out of the players in terms of current ability working towards their potential ability. It's slow, but at least it's not 2 players progressing. Now it's more like 10 to 12 players are seeing small amounts of progression, and that long term is going to make a much bigger difference and is really the only way we can move forward. But anyway, let's start with his intake. You can see there's probably at least 3. I'd say Iverson's not got a chance. Maybe once we see. At this stage, unless they already have like 45 plus, 50 plus current ability, unless their potential is 95 to 100-ish plus, they don't have a future with the team. And I actually, during this offseason, went in and probably wiped out a good 20 to 25 players who just aren't going to cut it, especially now that we're starting to see that little bit of development. There's a lot of guys who haven't been developing, that didn't have great potential to begin with, that I just let go. So we have thinned that roster down, and that might spur on a few of them a bit more when our training isn't so shared amongst a large squad. Anyway, our son is definitely the standout. He's a ball-winning midfielder on defensive duties at 3.5-star comparative to the rest of the team at this stage. He's agile, he's got pace, he's got stamina. Strength is tolerable. He's aggressive, hopefully not in a negative type way, but that's not what that one means. It just means they're going to get after it. It's a hidden attribute on whether they're going to wipe people out. Unfortunately, his personality is unambitious, so we're not likely to see rapid development beyond what we already have, at least early on. Work rate's high, though, 15. That does help. Determination's 12. It's really not that bad. I'm surprised that the personality shows as unambitious based on those attributes. Marking 9, tackling 8, has good technique, has good passing. That is a good breakdown for a starting out midfielder for us. If we were to play him on top, we're looking at a pressing forward, deep lying forward, or advanced forward on attack. 4 quick pieces of information all contained within this screen. First off, our budget. We were really, really tight after eliminating a bunch of contracts. We're now looking at $4,000 in spare payroll, so I can at least do 1 or 2 updated contracts without going over budget and getting myself in further trouble. Not that it actually matters. I could go beyond. I'm unfireable, so I don't want to get fired. I don't want to be in the position where they would want to fire me. For now, we have a B evaluation with the turn of the year. They're always disappointed that when we loan players out, that even though they're paying 100% salary, that we aren't getting additional money on top of that. And that just hasn't seemed to be an option because I haven't had a single deal come out that way at this point. And 99.999% of all loan offers we've had have been unnegotiable. They've been as is, take it or leave it, and getting players to develop is more important to me than getting $5 more out of the other team. So I accept it. Everybody's given us at least 80% salary, if not 100%, which the majority offer that 90 or 100%. The next thing is, it is our 5-year plan to expand the stadium. That has not changed. That's been there for a while. It kind of came and went. It came at first, and then the finances got really bad, so it went away. And then now it's just returned, even though the finances are still really bad. But speaking of finances being really bad, this is the big one, and this is where something might change. Now, it's not until the end of next season, but I have seen that our current Martin Rossfeld, there you go, is looking to leave the club as soon as possible. That's the current head of the board. And here, again, it states looking to sell the club. Now, that could mean one of a couple things. One, we are a publicly owned team. Community owned. The ownership comes down to the fans. Fans grow, fan base grows, more fans invest into the club has more money. And in a way that is sort of happening. We do get inputs of money, fundraising every month. And that has slowly grown, but it hasn't grown as fast as our expenses have. And while there's a decent amount coming in, and we clearly have a fan base that wants to help the team out, it's not enough. And that's been ongoing from the very first season, and it's just steadily gotten bigger. But again, not to a substantial point. But what we do have here is Martin Rossfeld looking to leave the club. So board of directors means he doesn't want to run for re-election, and somebody else is going to take over. Or the second possibility, as it says they're looking to sell the club, they still have 1 or maybe 2 years left, or I guess it would be 9 months or 21 months left on their reign as the president of the board. Will they sell the club before then? I'm hopeful that that's the case, because I'm still weary that a takeover from another board member may mean a small cash injection, but likely won't. It likely won't fix our financial troubles. But you never know, right? As publicly owned, we very easily could have somebody come in when Rossfeld leaves that is willing to inject a couple million or a few million in, and that's kind of how they got themselves elected. That is a very real world scenario, and I'm sure is something that could happen, potentially anyway. Not that it will, but potentially could. So either way, it looks like we have a possible ticket out, because Rossfeld's he's like 3 terms now, has never once injected any cash, never done anything to help, has only complained that the club is in financial trouble. but we sell out every single match. What else can I do? Nothing. Nothing. I cut payroll by 2,000, 3,000 by eliminating some guys. That $3,000 is not going to fix our financial troubles. I could offload a handful more. I could sell those 1 or 2 players for 50, 60, 80K. None of that is going to fix the problem. It's going to take something more substantial, and Rossville leaving, whether it's a pure sell of the club where somebody comes in and buys it, or whether it's through a new board member coming in, that's our best opportunity at fixing something. So there is some optimism. There's a glass half full here that maybe, just maybe, we have some sort of answer coming with a new president of the board. Okay, so the weakest player of the intake is Jonas Burge, a 35-42. Absolutely will not cut it. I mean, you can see some of the weakest players around a 50-51. A 35-42 is just, that's not going to work. So we're going to terminate trial on them as they didn't get assigned automatically. Others, well, they have been. And here from Witchney, the goalkeeper and above, is the remainder of the intake. So Witchney, a 52-130. That's a solid option for goalkeeper, and could be a contender for our starting goalkeeper, as we have a few guys kind of right around that 50 mark in terms of current ability. So we'll have to compare him with the others. Arsand, pretty good. 70 on the current ability. That is absolutely starting roster immediately level. And a 114 potential isn't tremendous, but there's certainly room for growth there. And hopefully, even though it said he's unambitious, he'll make some progress. Halkeberg and Tangerud, both really good potential and certainly decent quality right now. I would imagine those 3 players probably aren't going to spend too long in the U19s, as they very well could end up in the senior squad before long. Pal Thorson apparently was signed. He's not going to be around. I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that contract. Shala, Iverson, Bolin Fouch, they're all going to be gone. They're definitely going to be gone. The 99-95, maybe we'll hang on to them. I'll have to check my center backs and see if a 39-90 is worth hanging on to. But it does look like primarily we're looking at, 1, 2, and 4 more. So 6 players from this intake that we're going to keep and hang on to. And if I got rid of 20 to 25 and we are taking in 6, that means the overall roster is going to shrink by roughly 15 players. And that should help us out a little bit in terms of maybe getting a little more quality in the training, a little more firsthand with your coaches, especially when we have a very thin coaching staff overall. But I definitely see one player making an immediate impact on the squad, and that's a good thing. Norheim Cham is a player who has seen very, very little development. He's played okay for us. He certainly hasn't been bad. He's probably done better on the left side than Al has done on the right-hand side. And when you compare Norheim Cham to U19's player Andreasen, who was from 1 or 2 intakes ago, Andreasen has been developing, and he has trained really well, and I had just called him up to the senior level. And when you look at the 2 players, they're fairly similar at this point, but Andreasen actually might have a slight edge. You're looking at, he's the one in green. He's a little better physically. He's definitely a little bit better on the attack, +2 there, and -1 in a few places. Definitely doesn't quite have the vision that Norheim Cham has, and Norheim Cham's created a fair number of chances. He himself not good in the attack, but he himself has that little bit of vision where he definitely gets the occasional assist. But otherwise, these players are very similar. And like I said, Andreasen is developing and has been developing fairly rapidly and has just overtaken Norheim Cham. So that means if he continues that trend with the senior squad, he's somebody you want in that role anyway. He's somebody you want to give minutes to anyway, because if he's developing and playing, then he's going to get better and better and be something very valuable for us as a player. Now, Norheim Cham at the same time is one of those players who demanded a larger contract. So he's making over $5,000 a year. That's not much, but when we are only spending $55,000 total, I mean, that's 1/11. It's almost 10%. What is that? Like 9% of our salary? That's a healthy chunk of that salary. Well, anyway, if you hadn't noticed it yet, up here in the green, there is a bid. Now, it's straight up $40,000 plus another $16,000 in future deals, so $56,000 a friendly and all of those. It's for Start, which, play in the top division, their second team, which is probably where he'll be next season. Their second team is in our division. Speaking of in our division, he's not going anywhere. He's about to finish the deal, but he will be loaned back to us for the season. So we have Andreasen going through growing pains, seeing how he develops, working his way into the primary role, while Norheim gets kind of one more season for us while Andreasen kind of builds into that, and we rotate through the two a bit. But I'm excited for that because Bergfossum, wasn't so great. Definitely not as a backup. So this is a definite upgrade for us in terms of level pegging for now. Hopefully a year from now, that development continues to train well, and becomes even more of a player than Norheim Cham is, especially if we get that vision up. That's kind of the one area where he's lacking in comparison a bit. But yes, I'm excited for this deal. It's a decent amount of money. This is one that I am accepting, not being forced through by the board. But it was one of those, we could use some money. Now, besides Andreasen, Auersand, who we already looked at from this intake that we just had a couple weeks ago, is the other player that I've called up. So only 2 at this stage. I ended up, in the end, taking 8 of those U19 guys. I found 2 more that were on the edge, like 89, 94-ish potential, that had decent current ability and looked like, with development, could contribute. So I ultimately took 8, eliminated, and I've gotten rid of about 1 or 2 more since getting through there. So eliminated about 22, 23 players. So it's about minus 15 to the overall squad size. 2 players now moving up to senior level. 1 guy headed out at the end of the year, but loaned back for this year. I'm liking our prospects of maybe a little more stable season, right? We were pretty close to that drop zone last year. I'm hoping to be a little more solidly mid-table with development internally in the team, because ultimately we haven't lost anything. And even at the end of the season, when we lose Norheim Cham, we've already found a player that is overtaking him in terms of ability. So therefore, squad is getting stronger. And if we continue to develop, hopefully that will push us to mid-table this year, push up a little bit higher the next year, and then maybe see promotion sometime soon after that. Or if, the sale comes in somewhere in between, we can do something about a new stadium and bring in some money and blah, 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 blah. Make progress. Not just take 4 or 5 years to see the second division. All right. Let's go ahead and push forward. I think I'm ready to start the season. Let's get 1 match in, and then we'll wrap this episode up following that. As we're getting ready to kick off the season, Asean is the opponent. When we finished 9th a year ago, they finished 10th, just 1 point behind us, also avoiding the drop. Opening up against them at home becomes a pretty important fixture for us in order to establish a good start to the season. I'd say my goal for the season is to improve. I want more than 31 points. Therefore, I'm pushing for 35 plus. That's not much of a gain. It's not going to take much to get there. We certainly hope that we don't see much of a drop because, we were only 5 points clear of the drop a season ago. And according to the season preview, we are likely to face a relegation battle, as they've got us pretty similarly pegged to a year ago. I think my odds were 250 to 1 last year. They're 200 to 1 this year, so they are recognizing that we've seen the tiniest of improvements. Bodo Glimt, who just got promoted, that's their third squad, so their 1, 2, 3 are in the top 3 divisions, which is pretty crazy. Fyllingsdalen, who just got promoted, are just ahead of us in the standings. Hopefully we'll come out above both of those. Haugesund, who had a pretty decent year last year, and they were upper mid-table, picked to see the drop. They probably lost a handful of players. That's the reason for that. But Åsane and Arendal, who we just beat out, are slightly ahead of us, and that's where I hope we can, be at least to that point. Now, the transfer spending isn't relevant to this division. Comparative to this division, you had one player sold for 2,000, and Norheim Cham sold for that potential 56K. That's it. The rest of it was frees and loans, and therefore, and we actually got a loan with $10 monthly fees. Wow. But still, there's extra fees on top of it. We finally earned something along those lines. So this 13 million doesn't speak volumes. However, that doesn't mean that it's completely absent, like say Bodo Glimt, right? They made 4 million selling a number of players. Those 3 players that have been sold have to be replaced, theoretically, somewhere down the chain. So if the senior team lost 3 players, then the number 2 team is going to have to promote 2, 3, 4 players to replace what's ahead of them. And subsequently, the 3rd team, even though they just got promoted, theoretically is going to have to promote 2, 3, 4 players to replace those above them. So theoretically, Bodo Glimt got a little bit worse by making some money this year. Kristiansund, on the other hand, well, they have that mix. 7 players in, 6 players out, 7.5 million spent. So probably better players coming in than what was going out, but that's going to create a little bit of a shakeup for all as well. And they saw relegation, their second squad anyway, saw relegation from the 2nd tier down to the 3rd tier, and that is an indicator that they probably struggled in that 2nd tier a little bit, and their efforts aren't necessarily going to make this squad better. I think their efforts were to make their senior squad better as a whole, and therefore maybe they won't be quite as good as they're predicted, but you never know. Either way, the cream will rise to the top. The top 8 teams in the preseason predictions are all 2nd squads, with the 4 top tier, top level teams, Åsane, Arendal, Fyllingsdalen, and us, all predicted to be near the bottom of the league. Season kicking off, and it's the first time since the first 2 seasons that we played where we've been in the same division in back-to-back years. We started in the 10th tier, of course, and in that 10th tier, in that first season, it was a struggle. There was only, 16, 14 matches. It was a small league. I think there was maybe no, 9 teams. So probably 16 matches. We had 1 win, 1 draw, and like 12 losses. Something along those lines. Of course, that was that team of Current Ability 1s. We haven't talked about them in quite a while, but we did start with that before we had our first intake after the first year, just about to start the second season. And then, of course, that second season, with that first intake, it was enough to win that 10th tier. As we get the opener, and it's Arsand, the intake player. First time in a little while, I think Bergam was the last intake player to come straight through from an intake into the starting lineup. Arsand, nice late run there. Lovas peels back right off the line, lays it off for him on the ground through the pass. That's our tactic, and it does work. We get a lot of goals that way. Last year we didn't score quite as much, but we're still scoring at a decent rate, especially as bad as we are, as Al nearly makes it too. I thought he was going to go bottom corner last second. He kind of peeled in, went for the upper inside corner, and the keeper was able to save that one. 2 shots, 2 on target, already 1 goal, close on the second. Let's see if we can keep up the pressure on this relegation favorite, and of course team that we were very, very close with last season, just 1 point apart. Bergam nearly made it 3 on that one as he went off like close. It was a little delayed on the reaction there, but it was still a good attempt. And we are possessing well, doing really well. That was a bad giveaway though on that one. 4 shots, 4 on target, 0.65 XG, and we seem poised to get 2. And we've only played 14 minutes. Great through ball there, but Arsand, who's back to help on that corner kick, makes a good play on that one to intercept and stop the counter. They do retain possession, though, after we gave away the clearance. Now Bergam in possession. Oh, he had a through ball inside, didn't take it. Late cross. Norheim, little high, that might have banged off the post, if anything. Oof. There's their first chance of this one. We've still only played 18 minutes. Another free kick from a dangerous spot. Sabani makes an excellent save, but the ball falls right to his feet where he landed, and then luckily we pounced on the rebound and cleared it away. Jakobsen to Al. Arsand and Ostby are going to be a good combination, I think. Those are 2 strong players. Let's hope that we get some early development here from Arsand, and that he can be the next Ostby. We will really start controlling the midfield well if we have 2 players in the 80s, 90s in the center of mid. Lovas! Oh! I swear that hit the back of the net and came out. It didn't. It hit the post and came out, but it certainly looked to my eyes, which probably need glasses, like that thing was in the back of the net. No idea how that was not a goal. Other than, it hit the post. Al crosses. Norheim keeps it in. No, he does not. Out for the throw-in, too. I guess I'll take a throw-in deep like that because you get opportunities like this. Lovas, Bergam, 1-2, goal. Voss laid that off for Bergam. Bergam played it through right to the far post. Near post, I guess it depends. He's just about center here on the goal. Lovas just inside the post on that one. Keeper just falls to his knees and leans to the side. Can't get much to try to stop that one. And it is 2 goals before halftime. Early on, it certainly looked like we were going to do that. And then things opened up for them for a few minutes. But then we regained control. Ostby recovering the ball here. Chance to make it 3 before half. No. Lays it off deep. There's the late ball. And there's Bergam. And it is 3 before the half. Okay. We're having a good start to the season here. We've got another half to play, but I am very happy with where we're at. Bergam was offside, but he retreats, gets onside. That was not comfortable. It was close, but he absolutely got onside on that one, no doubt about it. And it's 3-0. Second half underway. Chance for Al there. We're already a couple minutes into the half. I'm going to do a little bit more time lapse here in this second half as it feels comfortable at 3-0. Bergam, free kick. Ooh, upper far corner. So close. Might have touched the bar. Definitely went off the net. Not sure why Fawoli laid that off all the way back to Sabani, but that's okay. Sabani's still in goal for now. We, of course, replaced Stensby Jakobsen. We have not had goalkeepers that have been good in our intakes, and we've definitely not had goalkeepers develop, period. So is my goalkeeping coaching that bad? Is my lack of selecting goalkeeping as training as a focus part of it? Or are we just stuck with a number of players? Because honestly, now with Sabani and our last two intake goalkeepers who are decent prospects, we now have 3 players that are right around a 50 in current ability, and all 3 have well over 100 plus potential ability. They're good. They should be better than they are. They should be better than they've been in terms of development. Lovas had a real chance to go near post low and probably score, but he turns, lays it off. We at least got a corner kick out of it, but that looked like a wasted opportunity. Lovas so close to scoring on that one. When it got past the keeper, I thought it was in the back of the net for sure, but it was inches wide. I want to go ahead and give a debut to the other young player that we called up from the U19s. This one, 2 years in the U19s, and definitely seeing development. And since coming up a month ago, he has been our best player in training throughout as they go close. That was the second time that they've gone close there. Andreasen is going to come on. Norheim having a good game so far, but I really don't care as much about him anymore for a couple of reasons. One, even though he has potential, as Lavas missing out on that one. Keeper made a save though, just enough to deflect it away. Andreasen is in now. 15 minutes left to play, so decent amount of time for his debut. Norheim just hasn't developed at the rate you would want him to. In fact, it looks like he hasn't necessarily developed at all. If he has, he's maybe a +2 current ability total. In how many years has it been? 3, 4 years? Bergam was just onside on that one. Flag stays down. Arsand. Bergam. Arsand's had a good debut. Ooh, nice. Andreasen, good play in there. It was offside. Not Andreasen's fault. It was neck and neck, and the player was well positioned. They made that little step inside to get it to him. Take that all day. It's a good play. Foley finds Al. Al was offside. Again, same sort of concept. We find a little bit of space. We play the ball in there, but we weren't quite where we needed to be. That one little miscommunication. I think we were looking for Lovas. Maybe realized Lovas was offside and couldn't not play the ball, but ended up underplaying the ball to nowhere. And that's it. Season opens on a win, 3-0, comfortable against a fellow relegation favorite. So that feels really good. And maybe, just maybe, especially with Arsend. Arsend is the one that I'm looking at being a key, because now we have quality. Kalzi was okay playing the ball, but he wasn't very good defensively. Arsand, let's take a look before we wrap up this episode. Let's compare those two. Here's the comparison. Kalzi is a good offensive player. He's got good attacking. He's pretty good technically and has good vision. He helps us create offense, but he's slow. He's terrible on defense. He's not good aerially. He doesn't have good physicals. And Kalzi is only there to help create offense and nothing else. Now, that's useful. It's not bad, and he's definitely a good backup, especially if you need a goal late. But you can see how much more well-rounded that Arsend is. He is much faster. He is much more physical. Great defending in comparison. I mean, he's almost twice as good. Mentals are the same, even though he is 16 and literally just come out of the youth academy. Aerially, he's slightly better. The vision is almost there. The technical is almost there. Really, the only way where he's a little bit lower is he's a bit behind attacking. If he starts to develop, you figure he'll catch up in 2 of those 3 areas almost immediately, and he'll catch up in that attacking eventually. But then he offers so much more in other areas. In particular, getting around the pitch a bit faster, which is really important when you're at a level where there's not a ton of skill. And that's why a player like Astencio is only a 47 current ability. He is way below standard, but he performs because he's really fast. And compared to others in this level, that speed by itself is a bit of a standout attribute that helps make things happen. Now, the higher we've gotten, the more technical the opponents have gotten, and the less he's had an advantage. But it's a thing. It's an absolute thing. And having a lot more pace in the midfield, I think, is going to pay off. Obviously, Arsand already with a goal in his first game. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.